Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're listening to this. Now, as I record this video just after midnight on Tuesday the 8th of December, Scotland is due to administer the first vaccinations against COVID-19 later this morning. I, for one, am fully on board with this, but as always, it seems inevitable that anti-vaccination conspiracies would be making the rounds. One in particular that started to go fairly viral across social media recently is an open letter from a group calling themselves the UK Medical Freedom Alliance. Now, I'm not really going to bother going through the entire letter, as it's quite clearly the usual anti-vaxxer bullshit reworded and mixed in with the kind of libertarian selfishness of arguing about certain groups of people being expendable. Going through it and even attempting to provide the usual dimwits who are just asking questions about the safety of the new vaccine would not only be a waste of time but also a complete disservice. If you have genuine concerns about the safety of the vaccine, then the best person to consult is probably your own GP when you're called to receive one. Instead, I figured I'll take a quick look at who exactly is pushing out this misinformation and how you can tell that it's definitely not from an area of expertise and is more from a few loons that are more concerned about pushing their agenda than providing information to the public. The just asking questions approach is generally what the people who are pushing this letter claim, and except it's more like the just asking questions approach you get from other anti-vaxxers, 9/11 truthers, the Obama birthers, Donald Trump supporters, moon landing hoax believers, Alex Jones fans, etc. They never care about the answers, unless it's one that backs up whatever delusion they're holding on to. Now, the name UK Freedom Alliance is one of these misleading titles, and it's designed to make you think that it's experts in the field that are behind it and they're on the public side, and that just could not be further from the truth. There's other groups that do this. Taxpayers Alliance, AIDS Healthcare Foundation. It's a very simple and somewhat effective tactic at getting people on your side. What was interesting to note is that nobody from the organisation or out with it put their name to the letter that's being spread around in a PDF format. A PhD in immunology or epidemiology might have given it some weight. In fact, the UK Medical Freedom Alliance is made up of anti-vaxxers with no expertise in the field of vaccines, and in some cases no scientific or medical qualifications relevant to them at all. Jo Rogers has no expertise in medical science or any medical qualifications. She's a lawyer. Dr. Zoc Cox is a dentist. Roger Watson, a professor of nursing. Dr. Malcolm Kendrick is a GP. Dr. Elizabeth Evans, she quit practicing medicine after only 4 years in the year 2000, and she's been trying to claim, among other things, that she's been a sufferer of electrosmog. Now, since she claimed in an article somewhere that I can't remember off the top of my head where it was, but I'll link to it in the description of the video, but she claimed that a 3G dongle was causing her to be ill, it's probably safe to bet that she's an advocate of the discredited 5G theory on coronavirus as well. Also in this group, you've got Dr. Anna Forbes, who runs a holistic medicine clinic, Dr. Rajendra Sharma, who's a homeopath. And finally, we have Dr. Chris Exley. Now, he's a documented anti-vaxxer, specifically claiming that vaccines cause autism in children. That much discredited theory courtesy of Andrew Wakefield. Now, they link on the UK Medical Freedom Alliance website to other sites, including petitions calling on end to the UK lockdowns, which were necessary to protect public health and curb the rise of coronavirus in certain areas of the country. And it also links to the Great Barrington Declaration. Now, this one was exceptionally interesting because while they boast on their website about the Great Barrington Declaration, quote, Great Barrington Declaration from infectious disease experts and public health scientists calling for another way to respond to the pandemic, focused protection, which reduces the collateral damage from the current lockdown approach, has been signed by nearly 50,000 medical and scientific professionals and over 650,000 members of the public. What they don't tell you is that the Great Barrington Declaration was the discredited petition that was calling for herd immunity, and it was signed by medical experts such as Dr. Johnny Bananas, Dr. I.P. Freely, Dr. Harold Shipman, Dr. Person Fake Name, and Dominic Cummings of Durham University. Also among the signatories from the medical profession were numerous homeopaths, despite homeopathy having no scientific or medical merit, massage therapists, hypnotherapists, and psychotherapists. It's much like the infamous paper from about a decade ago that was signed by over 20,000 scientists that claimed that CO2 was not causing climate change, in the sense that the Great Barrington Declaration didn't have any experts in the relevant fields of science and medicine sign it. The climate change petition didn't have anyone with an expertise in climatology. Great Barrington Declaration has had no virologists, no epidemiologists, or no experts in public health come forward and put their name to it. And I'm willing to bet money that the people who aren't anti-vaxxers and the people who have maybe some genuine concern about the safety of the vaccine that shared this PDF probably haven't read it, or at least haven't read it past the first few paragraphs, namely because it makes the same discredited arguments from COVID deniers that the virus is on par with the flu, and even suggests that it would be acceptable to let it sweep through the population as it kills primarily the elderly. Paragraph 7 of the letter basically says that it's not a big deal as the median age of the dead was over that of the average UK life expectancy. Quote, data analysis by the Centre for Evidence-Based Medicine at Oxford University has shown that the median age of death with SARS-CoV-2 in the UK is 82.4 years. This is higher than the age of normal life expectancy in the UK of 81.1 years. Now, I'd quite like to see anyone attempt to run an election platform or a public campaign of some kind on the basis that it's perfectly acceptable to let old people die. It's also quite ironic that some of the same people that screamed about 5G killing people's parents and grandparents are now sharing an open letter saying that we should let the coronavirus sweep through and kill people's parents and grandparents. So forgive me for not giving any real-time credence or credibility to what is basically thinly disguised anti-vaxxer propaganda from a newly formed group with a misleading name, because the doctors who have got their name to this organisation have about as much knowledge, insight and expertise in vaccines and virology as Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz and Dr. Drew. And any of them have ever deserved now and forever going forward for putting out this bullshit that misinforms and potentially kills people is one simple word repeated again and again as loudly as possible, both from their peers in the medical profession and from those in the public. Quack, quack, quack. I'm the Shredder, and that's my opinion.